G'day, my name's Jesse Webster. I'm here representing AWA at where the waters meet in Hobart in Tasmania. And with me we have Professor Ted Lefroy.
Jesse.
Thank you, from Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture.
That's right.
Great presentation this morning.
Thank you.
Very thought-provoking. I'm in agriculture myself, so yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Good.
What's the message that you wanted people to take away with you this morning?
I think it's the fact that there is this sort of emerging social movement around regenerative agricultural practices.
Yeah.
And they're really sending us a message to get back to think more about soil and what's below the ground. So it's really about tightening water and nutrient cycles, making much more efficient use of sunlight, the solar energy,
Sure.
and increasing general biodiversity in our crops and pastures. They're fairly basic messages, but what they're really saying is we can harness much more power from biological processes that we've shortcut.
Yeah.
We've very cleverly hot-wired landscapes with water and nutrients.
Yeah.
We've boosted productivity,
Yeah.
but it's been at a cost. The social cost, which would be obesity, heart disease, diabetes,
Sure.
and an environmental cost, which is the condition of our rivers.
Yes, I'd agree with that. You also mentioned in your talk today focusing on growing grass as opposed to growing an animal.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit
Well,
more
I
about
think-
that? As
yeah,
it
one
sort
of
of
the-
plays on what you just said.
Yeah, there are a couple of people who were instrumental in the movement. A botanist in South Africa called John Acox, and a French agronomist and biochemist called André Voisin. And what they realised is productivity was best where they focused on the grass and the soil.
Yeah.
And if they maintained that in good condition, then the animals would by necessity be. Doesn't mean that you don't ignore fat score and all the other things, but if you look after that, that tends to look after itself.
And
That's
I think
really
we
the
potentially tend to focus maybe too much on the animal and not enough on the grass.
Well,
Yeah.
drive down the Midlands
Yes.
And see how much bare soil we've got, and
Yeah.
sheep looking for that last little bit.
Yeah.
That's simply not sustainable.
I'd agree with that. So, in your opinion, how sustainable is water business in Tasmania?
Well, if we think of the agriculture sector, the great advantage we've got with the new irrigation schemes is that they're small.
Yep.
And that's a geographic phenomenon. It's
Sure.
a product of Tasmania's
Tasmania,
geography.
yeah.
We had to have lots of little schemes.
Yep.
But the advantage of that is that communities can have a great influence on how they run.
Yes.
If you look at the basin, you would have to connect up hundreds, if not
Yes.
thousands, of small communities to get consensus.
Sure.
It's a well-established phenomenon that where the scale sits within the same social catchment of groups of people,
Yep.
irrigation schemes tend to be more sustainable and better run.
Okay.
We've still got a long way to go, because what we're doing, even though we're in very dry conditions now, we're recreating the conditions of the 60s in terms of waterlogging and drainage.
Okay.
Talk to any irrigator, they're looking for drainage contractors.
Yeah.
They're looking for help and advice because they're creating waterlogged conditions.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because irrigation is new to most people.
Mm-hmm.
There is technology available, variable rate technology,
Yeah.
where you can precisely allocate the water according to crop and pasture demand. We're not up there yet.
Okay.
We're behind the curve in terms of best use of technology,
Yep.
and we're using too much of that water inappropriately.
Okay.
That's the risk.
Yep.
The benefit is we've got this wonderful resource of a dozen or so community-sized schemes.
Yeah, perfect. What can we do to ensure a more sustainable future moving forward in Tasmania?
I think the same principles that apply to regenerative agriculture, which is leaning more towards biological processes of cycling water and nutrients. We can use that at the scale of a household or a city or a whole shire.
Yeah.
I think the Huon Valley is a good example. There's a community scheme called Circular Economy Huon.
Yeah.
A lot of different people have moved to the Huon. Huge diversity of backgrounds and interests.
Yep.
They've formed this group because they can see there are sawmills, there are fish farms, there are places that all sorts of processing, and they're thinking, how can the waste from one be a raw material for another? How can we close the loop? So they're thinking of it in terms of a whole shire,
Yep.
which is really exciting.
Yeah.
People are doing it at an individual household scale.
Yeah.
You know, the School of Architecture at the university had a project called the No Bills House for
Okay.
many years. So it would be self-sufficient in water and electricity.
Wow.
Yeah. This is all feasible. A lot of people don't want to go to the extremes of doing it at the scale of their own household.
Yes.
But the interesting thing is the movement where it's happening at the scale of towns
or
and
regions.
shires.
Or,
It's not just agriculture.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea of circular economy or circular metabolism, it's using the latest of technology. This is not a Luddite movement. We don't have to go back north. We use technology to our advantage, but understanding the circular nature of biological process.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ted, for talking to us today.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
Good on you. Thanks, Jesse.